Hey guys, it's Brian from coverbanjos.com, and I've got a kind of a fun video for you today. I was clearing out my barn, and I've got a bunch of old instruments from the beginnings, of making banjos, and they're pretty bad, but I'm gonna show them to you today. Um, when I was 16, I bought my first 5-string banjo. It was one of those cheap Chinese resonator banjos. Paid $100 for it at my local music shop, and I was looking at them online recently. They still cost about $100. It's like one of the few things that hasn't gone up with inflation, and they sell them under all kinds of names. But I bought this book, which was in the shop as well, and I intended to learn how to play 3-finger Scruggs style picking. Earl Scruggs and the 5-string banjo. I studied it, and actually this is a really good book for if you are into the banjo. Like, it gives a little history on the 5-string banjo, its place in American history. Joel Sweeney, who possibly created that 5th string on the neck, and all the classics. And then it teaches you all the different finger rolls and all that. And I tried for a long time, for months and months, and I just could not get the 3-finger roll down. Even to this day, I still cannot do the 3-finger picking. I can do 2-finger picking. That's as much as I can do. I cannot get that 3rd finger to work, and that's kind of what led me into pursuing clawhammer style, which to me is it just came so much more naturally. Anyway, the back of this book, and this is what really got me and kept me captured with the banjo. It wasn't the playing, because it became apparent to me that I was never going to be good at playing the banjo. But it's got a section about building banjos right here, chapter 12, how to build a banjo. And for me, and even today, it's a pretty complicated process. He's basically showing you how to make his banjo, which, for a beginner builder, it's not easy just to jump into it. It's got a few templates. I mean, it's useful. It is useful, but it was just way out of my capabilities as a kid. Also, I thought it was really cool. It shows how he makes his own Scruggs pegs. Those pegs to change the tuning on the fly. Those are cool. I planned to make those back then, but I never did, because they're actually pretty complicated. All this was too complicated for me. So I wanted to build a banjo. I had a 2x4. I had a frying pan. I had a handsaw. I had a jigsaw like this, one of these things. And I had a bench grinder, like for metal, with the stone wheel on it. And this is the first banjo I built. I remember I had the corner of my parents' garage there's one outlet in the garage, and so I had a trash can, a board on top of the trash can, and that was my workbench. The bench grinder sitting on top of that. And then I remember like standing on top of the trash can to saw the 2x4. I remember sawing down the 2x4 long ways. That took forever. And then I took it to the bench grinder and just kind of shaped it. That took forever. Looks like I used Gorilla Glue on the heel. I must have had some problems with the heel. And I didn't know it at the time, but I guess I made a compensated bridge. And the frets are just like round wire that I glued in, and they are sharp. And I made the pegs with the grinding wheel. So I just put strings on it and I tried to tune it up, but the pegs started to break, so I don't want to overdo it. Pretty bad, but for some reason I enjoyed playing this more than my store-bought banjo. I was really proud of this thing. I remember like I brought it around to a lot of places with me and showed it off. I think I brought it to church, and I showed it to all my family, and that was my first banjo. Now my grandma, who recently passed away, she lived to be 100 years old. She really, I would show her all of my banjos. Anytime she'd come over or I'd go over to her house, I would show her a banjo and she would pick it up and look at it, just like really admire it. She'd be like, "Oh, you're so good at making instruments." And I remember I went to her house one day and we were sitting in the dining room, and she said, "Hey, I've got something for you." Because this first banjo is a frying pan, and I called it a panjo. Well, my grandma went in her cupboard or whatever and pulled out this copper frying pan and gave it to me and said, "Now you can make another banjo." So I did. And this one got quite a bit better than the first one. I learned quite a bit. And actually, I'm pretty sure I had a bandsaw at this point. I think that following Christmas, my parents gave me a bandsaw, which I still use, and it's right here. That bandsaw's been great. I've had it for a long time. They got me a bandsaw and a belt sander, so that really upped my banjo making game. This is mostly poplar and oak, and I remember cutting this out, all these little pieces, and then gluing them together. I don't even know how I did it, really. And somehow 20 years later, it's still glued together. It hasn't fallen apart yet. So this was my new, see, I still hadn't quite figured out how to get a goat skin, where to get them, how to attach them to something. So I was just doing metal or wooden tops. And this one has nylon strings and a leather tailpiece. Things I still do today. And I learned what an OG is, and I wanted a fretless banjo, so got the double OG, 5th, 7th, 10th, 12th fret. I think this one actually played like a real banjo, and by then I knew how to play a clawhammer style. So this banjo was probably one of the last ones that I kept for myself, and then I started selling them on eBay. I was like 16 when I sold my first banjo. Oh, and with that belt sander, I was able to make some tuning pegs that worked a lot better. I made pegs in this style for my kits for years. I made them all by hand. These are maple. I probably made just thousands and thousands of these. Now I buy violin pegs and use them. But, okay, so then when I got this is actually years later, but the instrument quality hasn't improved very much. This is the first kit, the first DIY banjo kit I made. So it is plywood, same pegs, handmade pegs. See, they got pretty good. Got pretty good at making those. And then I still wasn't turning rims yet, or bending rims. So I had to get creative, so I made a disc out of plywood and then tacked the skin on top of it. So this is like the first version of my do-it-yourself banjo kit, so it would have been about 11 years ago. And the nut is missing, but I guess the nut was glued on here. And then the strings would actually go through this little hole and attach to the peg on the underside. That way I could still get a downward tension at the nut without needing like a scoop or an angled head. I used leather tailpieces for this, and it kind of held everything together. Put the tailpiece on the dowel and then tighten it up, and the tension would hold this disc in place. And I actually still make banjo kits, at least up until recently, that were almost the same design. I sold them as the travel banjo kit, and they used just a disc where you would tack the skin onto it. It was a flat disc, and it was easily removable, and good for travel. And I'll be bringing that back later. I took it off the site because I'm trying to focus in on what I'm building. I have way too many model options on the site. So we'll get back to that eventually. So there you go. Those are my first banjos and my first do-it-yourself banjo kit. I've made dozens of other kit models since, and I'm always trying to improve them. I think I'm finally at the stage where my kit is almost exactly what I envisioned 20 years ago, what I hoped to be building. Took a long time to get there, but we're there, and I'm sure things will just keep progressing. Who knows where we'll be in 20 more years. So thanks for watching. Check out the website carverbanjos.com. Have a good day.